Mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, is making sure that the Black Lives Matter movement is too big for the White House to ignore. And she's joining us now to tell us how she's doing that. Please welcome Mayor Muriel Bowser. Please.
Thank you, V.
I'm so glad you're here. So glad you're here. You know, in the wake of the protests, you painted this massive mural saying Black Lives Matter on the road leading to the White House. And you called it, and this is one of my favorite things, a nightlight for you-know-who. Now, since he sent troops in your city home, he has taken down the fencing surrounding the White House. Do you think he got your message?
Well, I certainly hope he got the message. I think what we saw from this president is something that we haven't seen in our city, and that was federal troops on the ready, federal police policing a local city, National Guard troops hauled in from all over the country, and we saw peaceful protesters attacked by their federal government, and that should never happen. So I decided when we saw those federal police out on D.C. streets that we had to push back, and we had to make this area an area for peaceful protest and for an affirming message at this time right now that says we have to have more justice and more peace and fairness in policing.
What happened in your city in recent weeks, which you just described, I'll say it again, Trump militarizing the streets, federal officers violently clearing peaceful protesters from Lafayette Square, quite appalling, frankly. It became a flashpoint in this movement, however. And you say that you had no warning that that clash was going to happen. How hard has it been to run a city on Trump's home turf?
Well, it's our home turf. I was born and raised here. We're more than the federal government, more than the White House and the Capitol. We're 700,000 Americans who live here, who pay taxes here, who raise children here, and we want every right that every American has, and that's why we're fighting for statehood. And it's only through statehood, by D.C. becoming the 51st state, can we prevent Donald Trump or any president from encroaching on the autonomy of American citizens in Washington, D.C.
Hopefully he'll be gone very soon. So the House is voting on a bill next week to make D.C. the 51st state. Yeah,
that's correct.
But we already know it's going to be, though, it's going to be DOA in the Republican-held Senate. So then what? What's the next move after that?
Well, we don't let the Senate or the Republicans in either house off the hook. We know they've made plain that this is a partisan issue. It's only about them trying to stop two Democrats from getting in the Senate. But we know that's not what our democracy is based on. We support and believe in the values that if you pay taxes, you have to be represented. And one silver lining out of this clash is that more Americans know that Americans in the nation's capital, the only capital in the free world, where its citizens, our Congresswoman doesn't get to vote. We do not have two senators that speak for us. So we are literally without a voice in the Senate and without a vote in the House. And that violates the principles of American citizenship, and it has to be fixed. So you're right, Joy, that as far as we've gone, and this is as far as we'll go, the first time we'll have an affirmative vote in the House next Friday. So I want to thank all of those brave members for standing up and doing the right thing. But we know a Democrat in the democratically controlled Senate, and a Democrat in the White House, and a Democratic president who moves on this in his first 100 days will achieve statehood for Washington, D.C.
Mayor Bowser, I was moved by the images of civil rights icon John Lewis standing in front of the bold yellow Black Lives Matter lettering. He is currently fighting cancer, and at the age of 80, yes. It was pretty beautiful. But you are being sued by counter-protesters who claim that the mural and the street renaming shows bias to one race. And meanwhile, some Black Lives Matter activists have called the mural, quote, performative, and painted the words defund the police beside it. What do you make of the criticism?
Well, it's art, Megan, and we have in D.C. for a number of years funded an arts project called Murals DC, where we use art to send powerful messages all across the District of Columbia. And this is one such massive, beautiful, affirming piece of art. And I will defend our right to do that in any court in our land.